look, 16 teams in the NFL have to lose week one, except for the game that wasn't played in week one. So technically, 14 teams have to lose week one. So, not every team is going to have the strongest of performances. However, these 5 teams that I'm talking about for this topic video this week struggled mightily in week one. And while week one is kind of a testing ground to improve on the rest of the regular season, these teams struggled in very many different ways that cause for concern over the next couple of weeks and into the rest of the regular season. So we're going to look at 5 games from Thursday night, Sunday, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and focus on which teams have to get better in order to make the playoffs. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, here we have the New England Patriots, who lost 42-27 on Thursday night. They gave up their most yards and points in the Bill Belichick era, and Tom Brady went 16-36, 267 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Here's the thing. I went back and rewatched this game because I wasn't able to when it first aired, but man, this game was a hard watch. And it wasn't even really through the first half. It was the third quarter that was really struggling with me to capture how New England was doing so badly. Like the third and fourth quarter was just ridiculous. That defense did not cooperate at all on any front. And a lot of people took this out of perspective and what's wrong with Bill Belichick? What's wrong with Tom Brady? Mike Gillislee still had 3 rushing touchdowns, so there's no problem to me with that. But my 2 main concerns here are the wide receiver crew. You had a couple of good throws, deep long balls to Brandon Cooks, but Rob Gronkowski didn't get much. Danny Amendola is your leading receiver. I don't know how I feel about that. And that defense could not stop Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt. I knew they were going to have monster games throughout the season, but they had incredible games to start off the year. So New England, 42 points given up. That is not going to be a positive for them. They have to contain every single point in order to get better. I think they will. Right now, this is a struggle for week one. Second team we're talking about here is the Cincinnati Bengals. They lost 20-0 to the Baltimore Ravens. And as you can see, Andy Dalton played terribly. This wasn't really the fault of the defense of the Cincinnati Bengals. They played decently enough. They only gave Joe Flacco 1 touchdown. They got an interception. They did not play that bad overall. 20 points, that's a winnable game right there. It's the fact that Andy Dalton played like utter shit. And the Bengals are not a team that we looked at as a playoff team. We had them as they're probably going to miss the playoffs. I had them at 6-10. And that record is going to show this season if Andy Dalton continues to play like he did last night or yesterday. 16-31, 170 yards, 4 interceptions, and a fumble. That is ridiculous. I tweeted this out. The NFL is all about politics. If Colin Kaepernick can't play and he only threw 4 interceptions all last year and Andy Dalton threw 1 in 1 game as a starter, I don't understand that. But besides the point, Andy Dalton did a terrible job at playing the position last night. He had a 0.7 passer rating. 0.7. The highest you can get is 158.3. So he wasn't even close. It was a terrible game for him. His receivers didn't get all that much action with, Andy Dalton not being able to throw. It was more than 50% completion, but those are pretty short passes right there, honestly. And then you have the fact that he's throwing complete, interceptions to a good defense, a solid defense, but not a defense that's that threatening for 4 interceptions. Cincinnati, you're going to have to get better if you want to make the playoffs. And don't do this again, Andy. At number 3, we have the Indianapolis Colts, who, yes, this is 100% accurate, lost to the Los Angeles Rams 46-9. They are missing Andrew Luck tremendously, as you can tell by Scott Tolzien's stats. 9 of 18, 128 yards, and 2 interceptions. Unlike Mr. Andy Dalton, it really wasn't just Scott Tolzien's fault. It was partly his fault, but it wasn't just his fault. He did throw 2 pick sixes, which is not a good thing for the Indianapolis Colts. The Rams were able to capitalize on that, and they had a safety. So that combines for 16 of the 46 points. Where did the other 30 points come from? Oh, that's right. They were done by the worst defense in the league. It's really between them and the Jets. But the defense, who honestly you couldn't even name half of the starters, is atrocious. This is something we've been talking about for a while, especially during the preseason leading up to the regular season. Indianapolis has had a huge trouble trying to figure out their identity on defense. And while they have a couple of good players about to come up, especially drafting Malik Hooker will help them, they have a terrible defensive line. They have a terrible defensive coverage right now, and they are nowhere near the top of the level of defensive talent. It is atrocious to see. And they were giving Jared Goff a lot of opportunities last night. Jared Goff, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. He threw for over 300 yards. He only threw for 1 touchdown, but it was a good touchdown. Todd Gurley didn't rush that much, but he got a touchdown on them. That defense was terrible, and Scott Tolzien is not the answer at quarterback. They're going to have to figure out that quarterback situation quickly because Andrew Luck desperately needs to be there for this team to win. Fourth team we're talking about here is the Seattle Seahawks. They lost 17-9 yesterday against the Green Bay Packers, and Russell Wilson went 14-27 for 158 yards and 1 fumble. It really came down to me 2 things for the struggles of the Seattle Seahawks. Number 1 was the offensive line. We have talked about the offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks tremendously leading up to the first game here. We talked about how terrible they are. They don't have that many stars, and they continue to be the worst offensive line in football. So when Russell Wilson's in the pocket trying to make a good throw to Doug Baldwin or Tyler Lockett, he really can't because he doesn't have that much time. And it also hurt the running backs because the leading rusher for the Seattle Seahawks was Russell Wilson. He had 2 rushes for 40 yards. It's kind of ridiculous to see that your quarterback is the leading rusher. So the offensive line did not give them that much help, and it was a key part in the Green Bay defense getting to Russell Wilson, even though they're not that good of a defense. And second was their ineffectiveness to score touchdowns when they were in field goal territory. They were in red zone territory a couple times, but they were at least in field goal territory on 3 different drives, and they needed to score a touchdown because Green Bay, with Aaron Rodgers, knows how to score in key situations, and you're going to have to keep up with them. So field goals were not going to be helpful in this situation, and unfortunately, that's all Seattle did. They kicked 3 field goals thinking they could do it, but they weren't able to come back and beat the Green Bay Packers. We thought it was going to be more of a high offensive game, but it wasn't. But the reason for that was they weren't able to simply get it done in the end zone, and that was a critical loss for them. I think they'll be able to bounce back, but this was a hard start to watch if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, if you're enjoying the offense for them, because they did not do much against the Green Bay Packers here. So it'll be interesting moving forward. And the final team we're talking about is the New York Giants. I love using Eli Manning's face for these photos. They lost 19-3 last night. Eli Manning went 29-38, 220 yards, and 1 interception. I got to watch this game live. I was at the game, so it was a pretty fun experience to watch. But as a Cowboys fan, I was looking to see what the Giants' offense was going to deliver, and they did not bring much to the table. They were struggling mightily in the first half. They only had 2 first downs the entire first half, so that tells you something. That defense really did step up. I mean, there's a bunch of young guys on the Cowboys roster that really did step up for that team, but you would have thought with the Giants having so many high hopes in the NFL, you would have thought they would have done better. Odell Beckham did miss, and that's a key as to how bad they lost this game. I don't know if they would have won still, but they lost this game in kind of due part to Odell Beckham not being in the game. They only had 2 completions of over 12 yards. That's saying something. They were really able, the Cowboys defense was really able to stop the running game. Shane Vereen did have a nice game for himself at the receiver position, but the running game was almost non-existent for the New York Giants. And the defense wasn't that bad. They didn't give that many big runs to Ezekiel Elliott, although he did rush for over 100 yards. It was basically because of how many touches he got. It came down to Eli Manning didn't get to throw a lot of deep passes because the cornerbacks and the safeties were able to stop the deep balls to Sterling Shepard and Brandon Marshall. Eli Manning he threw that 1 interception that basically sealed the game. But yeah, it's kind of disappointing considering I have this team going very far in the playoffs. I don't want them to, but considering I have them this far, it was a huge disappointment to see them struggle in week one. We'll see how they do, but not a good start. So thank you guys for watching. That is my topic video for Mondays. I do topic videos now every Monday for the NFL. It's basically the day after all the Sunday football that you see. So I'll be on here every Monday giving my thoughts on some kind of topic that happened the day before. Monday Night Football will be tonight as well with Monday Night Raw. We're going to do the first game of Monday Night Football and Raw. We can't do the second one unless we do it tomorrow. More football coverage along the way. If you guys don't know the schedule, we're going to do a lot more stuff with NFL predictions. We got a betting show. There's a lot of coverage. Kevin's got his topic videos on Saturday. Mitch has got his own on Wednesday. So you guys got to stay tuned if you want all that NFL coverage. We are growing in subscribers, and we appreciate that. And the NFL season for us and the Bottom Line View is just going to get started. So like the video if you enjoyed it. Comment below your thoughts. Who struggled the most in week one? And subscribe to the Bottom Line View. Peace.